YouTube, what's good? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel. As always, really appreciate y'all tuning in. We are coming to you the day after the Tampa Supercross, and wow, that was a wild one. We had tons of unexpected action. First time winner, crashes, injuries, you name it. It went down in the Sunshine State, so a lot to get into in this one. Starting with the track, we had the first East Coast track of the year, and it wreaked some havoc on the boys out there. Qualifying, the track looked insane. It was rutted as can be with a super icy, slippery base, so just couldn't have been really much more tricky and technical, but then for the night show, it was at least a little bit better. Not as rutted, but still really slick base, especially for the East Coast. The base was a lot slicker than I think some of these coming rounds will be. But we had a short start, really tight track with a lot of tight 90s, not much space in between the exits and the entrances of the rhythms to the corners. And also, we can't go too much further without talking about that insane beach section, the quicksand, the beaches of Normandy. I don't even know what you want to call it, but it was claiming about as many people as Normandy was. Super gnarly. Obviously was way gnarlier than it looked, and it looked really gnarly, so I definitely wasn't too bummed to not be going through the beach sand on 2x4 suspension last night, just watching in the comfort of my own bed, no choice. And we had some more experimentation with 10 whoops. They added one extra, and I hope that what happened this weekend with 10 whoops doesn't have much bearing on what goes on the rest of the season, because we had some people getting claimed in them. Sexton crashing out of the lead, Vial with a big one in practice, several others, but I liked it. It created a lot of separation as we saw it kind of won Malcolm the race, so I like how they were gnarly, especially as a fan. I don't have to hit them. If I did want to hit them, I'd be looking for an HOV lane for sure, I promise you guys. And I have a theory about this whole 9-10 whoop debacle and safety, and you know, I can admire these guys trying to do stuff in the name of safety. I really can appreciate that, because we do want all of our top stars in the sport all season. I mean, that's why we tune in. We want to see the top guys race. But just my opinion, I think the number of whoops is actually kind of irrelevant compared to the condition of the whoops. And we actually had Cooper Webb in a podium interview. I think he said something about they let a blind guy fix the whoops after qualifying. And I think that was the real problem, was just the condition, because they were, I think, watered a little bit after qualifying, but then not really fixed too much. So they were dry underneath and really slippery. And that's just what creates that side-to-side swap and huckabuck action, where if they're fresh, you know, they can be as big and, you know, as many of them as you want, and more than likely you won't have problems compared to how we saw last night. So I think the most important thing with all that is just having them fixed before the night show, not letting them get too bad, especially with 4-strokes and 450s. You know, they get worse than ever nowadays. So I think that's the biggest problem. And, you know, even I just put the damn whoops in the drag backs in, man. We saw how many people went down in the sand last night. People were getting hurt without even crashing, just dabbing feet. So, I mean, in my opinion, there's no way you can build these tracks to save these guys for 17 rounds. Some years you might get lucky, some years you might not. But it's a gnarly sport, so just build it gnarly, let the best guys show off their skills, and let's see some separation. And what really does suck, and again, I don't think this is due to the track builds at all. I don't think there's anything you can do about it, but it really has become injury cross this year. It is insane how many injuries people are either coming off of or already have or are racing with this season. Here's a list, and most of these I came up with just off the top of my head. We got Tomac, Ferrandis, Jett, Hunta, McAdoo, Romano, Brown, Prado, Cochran, Shimoda, Ferry, Ryder D, Masterpool, Adams, Hampshire, Marchbanks, Clayson, Hymas, Simonson, Noren, Swoll, Hawkins, Long, Styles Robertson, and I'm sure at least a few more that I didn't get to, but that is insane. We're on round 5, and that list is just way too long. So it's a brutal sport. Gotta respect all the guys that stay in it and are able to get through uninjured, and especially those guys that are riding through the injuries. Supercross is already hard enough when you're healthy. So yeah, my hat's off to all you guys that are out there sending it. Well, I'm not. Better you than me for sure. Now let's get into the results, starting with the 250 class, P1 and Steve. The Brit came out hot, was fast all day. I believe qualified fastest, first in the heat race, and was tailing Brown for a while until Pierce pierced himself in the whoops. And yeah, Anstey just looked like he was in control of it all day. He's total veteran status. It's kind of like Max Anstey Craig. He's like 31, 32 years old, so he's been around the block. He's been there and done it. He's raced pretty much everybody, and he's beaten about everybody. So if he can limit the bad days, I think he's really looking good for this championship. And I might have minorly slept on him a little bit, because, man, he was really good. He's just so good technically and a lot of fun to watch. He's really dialed. Then with second spot, I'm so stoked on this. We have Dax Bennick, although I do believe he jumped on a red cross and got docked like 4 points, but he still kept the second place, still kept the check. And it's so great to see out of Dax. The kid's got so much potential, so much talent. I've been watching him for a long time. And yeah, just glad to see him break through. It's tough on the pro level. You know, it's a game of inches, and if a couple things are going wrong, it looks like you're way more off than you are. But he's firing on all cylinders now. And congratulations, Dax. We love to see it. Rounding out the podium, we got a straight-up warrior ride out of Cameron McAdoo, making me feel like a sissy. 1 week after my ACL tear, I could barely put my damn foot on the peg, and he goes out and gets a podium. Top guy on pro circuit, fresh off an ACL that the bike caused. Like, he should definitely have a lifetime pro circuit contract. No choice. But yeah, not much more you can say about McAdoo, but to commend the ride, man. He's just such a grinder. He's one of the very few guys that has made it to that level that makes me think, you know, maybe I could have made it there. And I say that out of respect because, you know, McAdoo, he just grinded his way there. He worked harder than anyone else, and he's willing to do stuff that nobody else is willing to do. I mean, he'll die for a race win. He would race from the grave if he had to, and I'm not willing to do that kind of stuff. So mad props to McAdoo on his rise to where he's gotten to. Then we got a quiet fourth out of Seth Hamaker. A lot of talk about him flying at the test track, riding at the Lawrence compound, and I'm excited to see what Seth's got this year. Hopefully he can just stay injury-free and get some base under him because he's hurt almost every year, and it's just hard to get things going whenever you're off the bike that much. But really strong start to the season for Seth in a fourth. Another quiet fifth for Vial after tank slapping himself in the whoops in qualifying. I feel like he's going to be just a consistent force this season. I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of flash, but that's how he won the championship last year, just pretty much off consistency. I just think that that's going to be a little bit harder this year. He's going to have a lot more competition to outlast this year, so we'll just have to see. But fifth, it's not a horrible starting point. You can't win the title at round one, but you sure can lose it. He didn't lose it yet. Sixth, super impressive for Hymas. I didn't even think he was going to be racing. I didn't pick him in my top 10, and he looked really good, was right there in the mix, and with only like 4 days on the bike, couldn't be much more impressed with him. And another impressive ride, seventh, Phoenix Honda, Cullen Park. He was good all day. Out of the B practice, I think he qualified single digit, was running like third in the heat race, and then a seventh in the main. So he's been getting better and better in the last couple of years. So I'm very, very impressed by Cullen Park, and he's kind of solidified himself as a consistent top 10 threat for this season. So it's going to be fun to watch him keep building. Quiet eighth for Thrasher. Didn't see or hear much out of him. Ninth for Levi Kitchen, and he was my pick for the championship. Not a great start to the season, and he didn't really look like he had much of his usual flash the whole day. Even when he crashed in the sand in the main event, it was kind of an awkward crash, and then he got up kind of slow. So I've heard some rumblings of maybe Epstein-Barr or something still lingering with his sickness he had at A1. So if he's healthy, I think he's going to start clicking him off. But if he's not, this field is just way too deep to have issues like that. So we'll just have to wait and see what we'll get out of the chef. And then rounding out the top 10, very solid day for Carson Mumford. Showed some serious flash in that heat race. Went for Pierce Brown's jugular right after the red flag, was making a statement. So good to see the fire out of him on the fire-powered bike. Actually, I think it's quad lock now, no choice. Then back in the field a little bit to some disappointment. 17th, Faulkner. Apparently he was riding with the flu. I can't imagine riding that track without the flu. So riding it with the flu, I can't imagine it was very fun at all. He looked way off all day. I was wondering what was wrong with him until I found out what was wrong with him, so it all kind of makes sense, but definitely not a fair shake of what Faulkner's got this season, and he's definitely got a lot to claw back from now. He's had a pretty big deficit already, so I almost think that it's a good thing for him because he has no championship pressure at this point. Now it's kind of pressure off, just go do as good as you can do and kind of just let the chips fall as they may for the championship, so I think that could be good for him as long as he just keeps his head on straight. Then 18th, RJ with the bold marketing strategy from Triumph to just Velcro the tough block to his bike. Definitely an unfortunate situation. At least it was self-induced. You know, he jumped right on the tough block, but it sucked that he couldn't get out of it for a lap. And yeah, I had RJ originally picked for this championship until I heard he was coming in hurt. So he's definitely, I think he's going to have to build into it for a couple weeks here, but we've already seen the speed. He was fastest in one of the qualifying sessions, won a heat race. So he's still the RJ we know. He's still going to be sending it. But again, another big deficit right off the bat. And then what a bummer, 20th, Pierce Brown. He was out front. I would say he was taken off, but I think Anstey was about to reel him in and make a move. And he just smashed himself in the whoops. It was violent. Looked like he hit his head, neck, all that, just crunched super hard. So I haven't heard anything on his condition, but really hope he's okay. It was an awesome start to the season for him, continuing his momentum from Vegas SMX last year. So get well soon to Pierce Brown. And then 21st, Max Volan with the handbrake. I was super impressed with him all day. The 21st doesn't really show much. I think he had a bike issue in the main, so that's a huge bummer. But he was good in all the qualifying sessions. It was in the mix in the heat race. And all in all, for a guy with a damn handbrake that can't feel his foot, was just it was a really great day for him. So showed a lot of promise headed into the rest of the season. Now into the 450 class. First time winner. How damn cool was it to see Malcolm Stewart win in Tampa, the hometown race? with his big brother JS calling the race. That was just such a feel-good story. It kind of reminded me of the AP win last year. Everybody was stoked for him. Just the crowd was going off like none other. And I'd sign up to watch Malcolm win a few more races in Florida for sure. That was really cool. It was like one of those things that kind of gives you goosebumps. And after the Triple Crown last weekend where he was getting good starts and kind of fading back, this was pretty unexpected, but that's what's crazy. All these guys are just so good. If it's clicking one night, if everything lines up, they can make it happen where, a couple other people, just a couple small things aren't in their favor. That's what makes a difference. So great job to Malcolm. Second, Cooper Webb. Y'all better watch out. This dude's dangerous. He's back on the East Coast to the tracks he likes, the tight football stadiums, and he's within, I think, just a few points of the points lead already after Sexton's miscue last night. So he's my pick for the championship, especially after a few of the other contenders have eliminated themselves right on the spot last night. So he's looking really good. He's building into it, and I don't know if you can still place bets on the championship like 5 rounds in, but if I can find a way, I'm putting it on 2. Then a very quiet third on the box for Jason Anderson. He even said it himself on the podium. He was more of a 5th place guy, but got a little lucky with the crashes of Roczen and Sexton, but got to be in it to win it, baby, or you at least got to be in it to get third. So good job for Anderson, and he started the season 3 out of 5 podiums, so that's really good, but the 2 races that he hasn't podiumed have been pretty far off, so if he could just get a little bit more even keel, he'll be dialed in, but he's definitely had a strong start to the season. Then 4th, Jay Coop turning the season around. Really good night for him, good starts. Still, the only thing with him is he just loses so much time in the whoops. I feel like if he was skimming the whoops, he would have for sure been on the podium. But yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, that's for sure. And I can't even jump whoops, so who am I to talk? But yeah, really good ride for Cooper to get 4th. And if these guys keep dropping like flies, he could be a podium guy before we know it. Then 5th, Chase Sexton. I thought he had it. Like, he was gone. I was about to turn the race off because I thought it was going to be boring. I thought he was checked out, but that was not the case. Malcolm was just greasing the whoops and running him down, and I feel like Malcolm running him down like that really threw him for a loop. He didn't expect that, and I've been there at a way lower level myself, even like local racing. Like when you're getting caught by somebody you don't expect to get caught by, you kind of start to lose your mind a little bit. And right as Malcolm was about to make the pass, Chase went down, damaged the bike. I think the throttle and the brake were messed up, so he lost a few more spots. So still salvaged a 5th, but it's a bummer whenever you're leading most of the race to go all the way back to 5th like that. Those few points could come back to bite him at the end of the season, but he's still got the red plate. We're still looking good, and at this point, it's down to Chase and Coop. Quiet 6th for Barsha. Got to throw shout-outs to Savachi and McElrath on the quad lock Hondas, 7th and 9th. Good to see a little bit of fire lit into their seasons. They've been really quiet so far, and they got some single digits under their belt now. Impressive night for the Betas, 11th and 13th for Oldenburg and Bloss. And how funny was it in the heat race? Roczen was about getting into it with Bloss whenever it was actually Oldenburg that hit him, but little miscommunications, they happen, but good ride for the Betas. Then 17th, this one hurts, man, Tomac. I was watching race day live whenever he dabbed his foot. I thought it was Achilles for sure right away, but it was good to see him at least limp back off into the tunnel, so you'd have to figure Achilles isn't completely blown if he's at least be able to walk on it, but yeah, the only bummer about this whole Tomac thing is people were reporting that he was going to be fine, which absolutely zero hate to the people that are reporting on this because they're just reporting what they've been told. But I just don't understand why the people that are, telling the reporters information, why you guys just can't be real. Like say, yeah, he's a little jacked up, but we're going to go out and do our best tonight and just try to salvage a few points. But no, they say he's fine and this and that, everything's cool. And, now there's people betting on the sport now. So I feel like transparency really would be nice, but I don't expect to see a change anytime soon. But what a bummer for him too. It seems like he's effectively taken himself out of the championship unless he's miraculously okay in 6 days' time and just starts clicking him off. But what a bummer. I really hope this isn't the end of Eli Tomac because as we know, he's already at the end of the career. And if this is another big injury, then that could be it for him. So my hopes and prayers are that it buffs out and that he's back next weekend, but we're just going to have to hold our breath and wait and see. And then 21st, what a damn bummer. Kickstart Kenny got nuked by the lappers. It was like somebody was up in the top row of the stands and sniped all 3 of those guys, and they just scattered across the sand section. And I feel like that was just one of those racing deals, yeah, Jeremy Hand came over a little bit, but how many times did we see those guys in the top 5 getting squirrely in the sand? Like, that stuff's hard. It's not easy to just go straight through, especially, whenever you're slowing down to let those guys lap you, it's actually way harder to go slower through that sand than it is faster. So I can identify with the problem Jeremy Hand had. It just sucks that it took out Roczen and Tristan Lane and derailed the chain, and that was all she wrote for Kenny, so massive bummer. And now he's pretty much taken himself out of the championship fight unless there's a disaster from Chase and Coop as well. So really a bummer. I feel like the air has kind of gotten taken out of the series, where a week ago we had 5 contenders, and now we're pretty much down to 2 already. But that's Supercross. It changes quickly. One weekend everybody's cool, next weekend everybody's banged up and headed to the cemetery. And last but not least, want to give a shout out to some privateers that made the 450 main. The 450 mains are so gnarly, so to be a privateer and put yourself in there is a hell of an accomplishment. We had Justin Starling, Kevin Morans, Anthony Rodriguez, Jeremy Hand, Tristan Lane, all making the main event. And I even got to throw a shout out to my boy Jerry Robin, privateer, whole shotting the heat race. He lost his mind, which I get it. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I look back and saw them guys, but he busted his ass big time. But at least he got to see what it was like leading the big dogs. You'll get them next time, brother. But yeah, that's about all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little review. I really enjoyed watching the racing last night, and I feel like the season's unfortunately going a little bit downhill with the amount of contenders that are starting to get hurt. But it's dirt bikes, it's tough racing, it's a dangerous sport, and that's just kind of how it goes. So next weekend in Detroit should be good. Make sure if you guys are there, lock up your bikes, lock your cars. And yeah, see you guys next time.